Morning, guys. No new tattoo update today, so I figured I'd make a video all about my tattoo healing and some of my complications with different methods I've had over the years, and maybe a little bit about tattoo infection. I have made a video about the pain of tattooing already, so I won't get into that. And I also did make a video all about tattoo infection, but I'll brush up on that as well while I'm at it. But first I'll show off how last week's session healed, as I did my first session on silver over black, and I'm sure some people would like to see how that healed. So first I'll show off the pattern. All the lines healed nice and dark on the eye. You can see how that held. The little tentacle over top of my belly button healed really well. The red highlights in this have come out even more over the last week. And then this small amount of silver, you don't even need to get super close up on. You can see really clearly. It healed maybe even lighter than it went in. So the silver was definitely a better white than the white was in my moon, as that hasn't really gotten much darker. Not that I'm unhappy with the white, but the silver was quite a bit better than the white, so for all of my white ink highlights, I'll be using silver. And I'm pretty sure it's obvious why. So anyway, with that out of the way, we'll be working on some more tentacle stuff and some more new pieces here in a few weeks. But anyway, as I said, I already made a video about tattoo infection, so I'll just lightly touch upon that and the pain and all that stuff. So my preferred method to heal tattoos currently is basically dry healing. And I say basically because it's not 100% dry, but for the most part dry. When I leave the tattoo studio, I'm always wrapped in a medical bandage. Kind of looks like a bed sheet, but smaller. I did look up the exact name. I believe they're Medipan bed sheets. They're kind of like these big square blue things with white on the underside. Similar to what a tattoo artist would put down or a piercer would put down if you're laying on a table or something, but just a little different. I usually take one of those with me for the second day if it's full plasma still, or if the tattoo hasn't fully dried up, and I just rewrap the area. But basically I wait until the tattoo has completely dried out, and then I just kind of moisturize it once a day from there on. I don't put any aftercare on until the tattoo's dried out. It's just the way that I've been healing black work for the last, I would say since I was with Rick, so since last January. And it's been the best method for keeping the black from having a lot of dropout. Now, I did my entire legs, for example, that method, basically dry healing. Just a little bit of moisture, just to make sure that it didn't get too dry or crispy, because you don't want cracking. But for the most part, I found that sealing up black work was a better way to heal in all the color saturation, especially for things like when I was getting my hands done. I would find that when I was getting my fingers in particularly blacked out, what would happen is they would stay too moist and the skin would never dry up and kind of seal. So I would get a lot of ink and blood and different things seeping out of the holes in the skin. And so the first time I ever blacked out my fingers, for example, I lost quite a bit of the black ink. So fingers don't heal especially well anyway after being tattooed. And I was making the matter worse by not allowing the holes in the fingers to heal up. So it seemed counterintuitive to me, where I had been at that time either healing with Saniderm or Aquaphor or tattoo goo or any of those sorts of products. But dry healing in the case of something like that worked really well to dry up all of the holes in my skin. so that I could retain more of the ink. And so when I got it done the second time, that's what I did. And I even had less swelling that way and probably less pain too. I was able to use my fingers a little sooner. And from that point on, my mind started kind of turning from using aftercare products and Sanoderm and stuff like that to more of a dry healing mindset. When I met my wife, for example, she had been dry healing her tattoos, and I thought that sounded crazy. Like, to me, it sounded like a fate worse than death for the discomfort of a dry tattoo and the idea of like dry tattoo would scab more or something like that. I just thought that it would be a worse heal all around, and you would end up with less saturation at the end of it. But over the years, I've kind of put that thought to rest, and for most of my work now, that's what I'll be doing. The only times I've ever had tattoo infections, I've had two. They were both blackouts. I've never had infections from normal tattoos. My left foot blackout and my left hand blackout were both, no, sorry, my right hand blackout. Crossed a wire or something. My right hand blackout, I think it was the second time I blacked out my right hand. I had a really crazy infection to the point where my skin was mushing up and draining green ooze, and it ended up kind of going up higher on my arm. It got into the ditch and different parts of the bicep, and I even had a little spot on my face where the infection was spreading. It was basically like, the doctor didn't say it, but it was basically a staph infection. So after that infection, which was healing with Sanoderm, it took me probably about 2 months before I got another tattoo. I think I lost 20 pounds. I needed 2 rounds of antibiotics to finally beat the infection. But after all of those antibiotics, my skin wasn't healing the same way for probably the next year. That was back in, I think that was at the end of 2017 or the early 2018. And so everything that I got tattooed after that, it was almost like I had a bit of lingering infection still for the next year. And so I would have a bit of pitting and just a lot of weird healing issues for a while. And that's kind of when I stopped using Sanoderm for a bit. I think Sanoderm was fine, but when we wrapped it up, something bad must have gotten into the Sanoderm wrap, and it just kind of created like a pressure cooker. So where that exposed skin was being fed some bad bacteria or something, and it couldn't breathe, and it just made it worse. My next infection came at the beginning of 2020 when I first blacked out my left foot. That one was a bit different. It seemed fine. I didn't use Sanoderm for that one. That one I was mostly dry healing. But I took a week off work to heal my foot because working with a swollen, sore, tattooed foot, you don't want to be putting it in socks, and you don't want to be putting it in dirty kitchen shoes, especially. So I took the week off. It was, I think it was 6 days after I decided I probably could go back to work because there was no swelling in my foot anymore, and everything looked normal, and it had almost fully peeled by that point. There were still a few spots that hadn't. When I went back to work, by 4 hours into that shift, my leg was swollen all the way up to my thigh from my foot, and I could barely move anymore. And I was planning on finishing the whole day, but my boss noticed that she could see my leg was swollen through my pants because my pants were so tight around my thigh and my knee that you could tell I couldn't even bend my leg anymore. And so she sent me home at noon that day, and I ended up going to the hospital that night and getting another round of antibiotics. And I couldn't walk for close to 2 weeks. and whenever I did stand up, I had crazy, crazy pain in my leg for hours. It felt like, well, it wasn't hours, it was minutes, but it was almost like I had lightning traveling through that whole limb. And it was one of the only times in my life I've been in pain to the point where I out loud made some noise about it. I'm not a complainer. I'm not one that you'll ever hear let on about how much something hurts. But just walking, I couldn't touch the ground with that foot. And when that infection finally healed, the spots that were infected left really, really nasty scars. I had some pretty bad scars on this hand too. You can see it in the knuckles. There's still some lines, like here. You can see some really bad kind of like right around here where I had some lines gone over from my old tattoo. So there's still some really visible lines and some really undulated skin there. It's very, very textured, where the infection was worst, where my knuckles actually bust open from infection. So tattoo infection can be pretty insane. That being said, I'm pretty sure I know what caused the infection in my right hand. Still to this day, not exactly sure what caused the infection in the left foot. I mean, obviously, I was in a bacteria-full environment and all of that stuff. But then again, I always am as a cook, and I've been a cook the whole time I've been getting tattooed. So it didn't make a ton of sense to me. The only thing I can think is that there might have been something not fully closed up yet. And when I put my work shoes on, something nasty got in from that far out. But it should have been fine that time at 6 days because I've had my feet tattooed before the blackouts and I've gone back to work in less time. I think when I got my original feet tattoos, I went back to work in 2 days. And I remember having a little bit of complication, but it wasn't like the blackouts. Obviously, the blackout is much, much more trauma, and I've talked about that at great length, that healing blackouts or blackwork tattoos, heavy blackwork, is a lot more of an undertaking than, say, you got a nice rose on your arm or you got a tiger portrait where most of it's negative space. I never really had to worry about my aftercare routines until I got into the heavy blackwork and the heavy saturation stuff. That's when I really started thinking about the best ways to heal tattoos. And it's come to me that the best method for healing heavy saturation is dry. Even though it seemed crazy to me, it just, at the end of the day, the body seems to heal itself best, and the less meddling we do, the better. I don't even wash more than twice. Like, I'll wash my tattoo at the end of the first day, at the end of the second day, and after that, it's just kind of let it do its own thing. Moisturize once every day, no more than that. And yeah, there's no other great secret. I don't have any like magic trick that I do. I just let my body take care of it for the most part these days, and that seems to produce the best result. If you watch these vlogs, you'll see that 2-3 vlogs ago, I showed off the result of healing with that ink block or ink guard, and it was worse than normal. It was the only time I've had scabbing of any kind on any tattoo in the entire time I've been working with Rick for the last 2 years. So it seems to me that the dry heal method with the medical bandage has been the best bet for me, and tampering with that produced an immediate bad result. So I don't think it's I think once you have something that's working for you and your body, I think it's best to stay with that rather than experimenting. But that being said, it may take a little bit of experimenting until you find your best method, as I've tried pretty well every aftercare procedure there is in tattooing, and in the North American world anyway. And I found the simplest way has proved to be the best way. In terms of what I do moisturize with once a day, I've stuck to Aquaphor. I've always liked Aquaphor. I find that my skin gets quite dry quite quickly in the environment I live in, but if you're in more of a humid environment, you might not need something as um, hydrating as Aquaphor is. Where I live in a very arid region, everything is really dry. It's very windy climate. It's often extreme colds or extreme heat. I've just found that Aquaphor is a great bet for my skin, but something like that might not work as well for someone else. Someone else might use something like Hustle Butter for better results, but I've always found that Hustle Butter feels real dry and a little greasy for me within an hour or two. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else to say about how I heal my tattoos because honestly, there's no real magic to how I heal my tattoos, and I feel like I might actually be letting some people down out there that were expecting to hear that I do some magic spell or that I had some crazy hidden mojo that I'm doing. But yeah, it's real simple for me, and I really think the simpler we make it, the better it is, and the easier it is to maintain too. So, if you've enjoyed this video or any of my other videos, be sure to share them with your friends and give this video a like. It helps a lot. I know it seems silly, but likes help these videos move. So, yeah, give me that thumbs up, or if you hate this video, a thumbs down works too. So, anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon.